To market on close, shares of Apple are down around 4% since hitting a record high last week. But that is not stopping analysts from raising their price targets on the stock. Citi today boosted its target to $330, up from $315, and kept a buy rating. The firm said it sees iPhone upside in its December and March quarters and upped its estimates for earnings to reflect the strength from the iPhone 17. Now it's time for Options Corner. Of course, we'll be featuring Apple today. Helping us do that is our lead market technician, Ducat, joining us as always to take a look at the technicals on Apple. We did get this positive note from Citi, but we're not seeing a lot of action in Apple today. I mean, it's pretty much unchanged right now. But as we take a look at Apple's performance more broadly against the sector and also just against the market on the whole, I'm seeing it's actually trading a bit lower at times, but we are starting to come back up to trade in line.
Yeah, Apple was notably had the dubious distinction of being the worst member of the Mag 7 for quite a while here, but we seem to have made our way back up. We're about on par with the S&P 500 now. Apple up a little under 13%, S&P up 13%. Still underperforming tech, though, pretty heavily here. If you were to look at how Apple stacks up versus the Mag 7, pretty much in line now. And, you know, it sounds like there's been some leadership changes that are coming up here for this company. Ramping up discussions about a successor for Tim Cook and transition plans. Senior VP for machine learning and AI strategy, VP for environment, social, and policy initiatives, and more top executives are leaving Apple here. So these are not the greatest headlines that you could be seeing here. A lot of high-level turnover seems to be happening at this company here, as they have curiously also lagged in the AI race so far.
And very interesting you bring that up, because a lot of the analyst commentary that I've read indicates that the sell side, at least, is not upset about some of the departures that we're seeing. They're actually citing them as reasonings for increasing price targets or changing coverage or a more bullish sentiment.
Yeah, it can be funny how that works out here. Sometimes perhaps a changing of the guard can be good here. And the analyst that were covering this name, Deepwater Management's Gene Munster, today said he thinks Apple will be the Mag 7's best performer in the next 6 months here. Strong iPhone sales during the fourth quarter. New Siri coming out in April. And I got to say, Siri needs some work. I'll leave it at that, but Siri needs some work. And also, Dan Ives yesterday raised his price target as well. So kind of that whole idea behind rotation in general. The underperformers adjust and hopefully right the ship and then become the outperformers as the previous outperformers start to win. You know, that's kind of the cycle of things.
Sure. I mean, you bring up a good point about the cyclical nature of stocks just on their own. But Dan Ives, one of those bulls, he's been a long time Apple bull, but he did bring up that he thinks 2026 is the year that we will see Apple enter the AI race, so maybe no longer calling them a laggard. But as we look at Apple's chart on its own, away from the Mag 7, you know, and take a look at the technicals, you know, what are they indicating to you?
You know, harsh words from one other analyst first. Justin Bieber posted on X that if he accidentally hits the iPhone's dictation button one more time and stops his music, he will find everyone at Apple and put them in a rear naked chokehold. Quote. So, you know, further harsh words there, but I don't think his words hold as much weight as, you know, Dan Ives perhaps for this.
Things that were not on my bingo card today. Justin Bieber's commentary on Apple.
There you go here. But when we do look at our chart here, rising wedge type shape here is the pattern that we've seen. So two trend lines converging toward each other. The upper one is a little bit more of a gradual slope, but it does seem like perhaps we are slipping below that level here. We had these old highs here near 277. That's about where we are now. We had our intraday all-time highs, 288.62 to the upside. That's the mark to look out for there. Meanwhile, to the downside, we had our range here. First, we had our high point around 265. That's about where price has hit its lower end recently a few times in the past several sessions here. So something to consider in terms of shorter term boundaries here. Moving averages, we are below our weekly 5-day EMA here in blue. We're above our monthly 21-day EMA. So kind of in between this very small range here between those two moving averages here. RSI, our measure of momentum, also struggling a little bit here. Upward trend line is broken. Looks actually quite a bit more severe than price activity does. Price is always more important, so this could be RSI regrouping for another push to the upside. Finally, when we do look at volume profile, we can see our two volume nodes come in here around 270 and here around 265. So those are some notable areas to consider for potential support if we do move lower.
Yeah, right now at 277.73. As far as options action that we're seeing today in Apple, are we seeing any increase? It's a heavily traded name.
Yes, exactly. This is one of the top names in terms of activity. Usually, actually, a light day. Sizzle is only 0.7%, so about 70% of the usual activity in terms of volume. Heavy skew toward calls today, though. 76% calls out of the 450,000 options that traded hands so far today. 10 days out, December 19th, 2.9% expected move. January 16th, 5.7% here. There was a couple interesting trades that we saw as well, too. $2.7 million debit. Someone bought the December 26th, 257.5 calls here, but it was also paired with a closing trade for the December 12th, 255 calls. Just quick back of napkin math, they made about $770,000 of profit in less than a month from the opening trade on November 17th.
All right. Well, $70,000 in profit is not a bad trade. With that, we'll come to the end of Options Corner. I want to thank Rick Ducat, our lead market technician, for being with us to talk Apple today.